You're listening to episode 14 of Post Production Podcast. Hello and welcome, all you wonderful listeners out there, to Post Production Podcast, where we talk about movies, we talk about TV series. Sometimes we talk about games. Today we're going to do some reviews. I'm your host, Mr. Drew, and of course with me is my co-host, Adam.
Hey, what's up, Drew?
Hey! Hi!
Hey!
What's up?
Oh, hi, Drew.
Oh,
Are you ready for today?
I am ready, sort of. Yeah, sure.
You sound so enthusiastic.
I am not. I should, you know what? Okay, so we're going to talk about The Room today
slash the
disaster artist. And you know, this is one of those times where you have to put aside your personal feelings and you just have to do the work. You know, and
this was work for you.
And this was work for me. It was painful work. It really was painful work. I think I have scars. There's scars. There's definitely scars.
On your eyes?
From this. Eyes, ears, my brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's rough. But, you know, I pushed through. I muscled through it. And it took me quite a few tries.
Good. I'm proud of you.
To do it. But, yeah. So we actually went to a special premiere this last week at one of our local movie theaters. So we saw The Room on the big screen.
Yeah, and for some of you guys who don't know, it's kind of infamous for being the best, worst movie ever made, right? And this was made in like 2003 or something like that. And I mean, ever since, it's kind of gained this cult following of people who just love how terrible it is. And it truly is a terrible film for so many reasons. Like, you would just have to see it to believe it. And so it's kind of gained this following and made it this huge thing among this kind of cult group of people. And this movie was coming out. A lot of you may have heard of it, called The Disaster Artist, starring James Franco. And that's based on the story of how The Room was made. And that's how I kind of got onto this thing, is that there's this movie coming out. I want to see what it's about. And the trailers were funny, and I was intrigued enough to say, you know, let me go ahead and see. And I think to each their own, but for me, I think, I fell in love with just the experience of watching it, just like everyone else. And I could understand how it gained this kind of following. Whereas you had a very different experience with it.
Yeah, I get it.
You get it.
I do. No, I seriously, I get the fact that, you know, there's this allure to watching this train wreck happen. And that's what people are about sometimes. Sometimes people want to watch a train wreck. It's mesmerizing to see something so horrible.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get that. I was baffled and just completely shocked in the theater watching this movie unfold and trying to kind of rationalize the fact that this wasn't made on purpose to be this bad.
Yeah.
Like this was somebody's attempt at real filmmaking, at putting something that they believed on film and something that was dear to them personally and emotionally and all of that. And then just to watch it unfold in such a horrible manner. The thing that I really kind of disgusts me is that it's a celebrated event. You know, we have this tendency in our social culture to kind of celebrate these horrible things. I get it. I just don't. It's just, for me personally, it just disgusts me how, you know, there are some like quality. There's just such good stuff out there. There's massive amounts of quality content and artistic content and things that are just beautiful. And there are other things that we just cling to that are horrible, should never be celebrated, and they are, and it is the way it is.
But also, this is, this is a cult following. Like, this isn't like before the Disaster Artist. Like, this wasn't a talked about film. Like, this wasn't like, because we could talk about things that are bad, whether it's celebrity gossip or whatever, like things that don't matter. And those things are the biggest things in the world. This isn't the biggest thing in the world. It's just like this kind of little thing that people held on to. Just, this is really funny. Hey, let's go watch this, And it just kind of became this thing with showings like every weekend in LA. I guess it's been like that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's one of those things that's celebrated for being. I think that it's
in the spotlight now.
Way.
It's in the spotlight now because of the Disaster Artist, because of Franco. I mean, he got a
Golden
Globe for his acting in this. So kudos to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back,
don't drink the punch.
I say drink it all.
We have drink the punch, don't drink the punch.
You know what? The punch is right there. Just go. If you want it, take it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But so we had two different experiences because I had watched it 2 times before seeing it in the theater, and I actually purchased the DVD. And if you're going to watch it, I think it is better to watch it like with some friends, get together and just laugh at this thing, because
it's not something you can watch alone.
It's kind of a communal experience, and it's great to just laugh and watch this crazy thing unfold with some good friends. I think that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it, you have to have a crowd, because that's the only way you're gonna. I wouldn't say enjoy this movie, but it's the only way you're gonna come out of it going, okay, yeah. I laughed at something that was so horrific with some friends, and this is great to talk about how bad it is. It's one of those movies.
Because if you went in there saying, I'm going to take this seriously, I want to see what this is about, and if you take it too seriously, of course you're going to walk out of there like, what did I just experience?
Yeah.
But if you know that you're supposed to laugh at this movie, and you go in there saying, hey, we're going to have a good time with this, I think you're going to have a good time. I think it's hilarious. I think it's something so strange and so rare. Like, this is someone who tried really hard and then failed miserably, but was able to make the most and the best out of that situation. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to the Disaster Artist,
right?
Which is, of course, again, the story of how The Room was made, starring James Franco as Tommy Wiseau.
And his brother
Dave
Franco as
Greg Sestero.
Yeah, Greg Sestero.
It's kind of the story of how they met and how The Room kind of came into production, and all of the crazy things that went on the set of The Room, and
in and off the set, around everything.
If you watch The Room, you kind of wonder like what was going through everyone's minds when they were putting this thing together. And so you kind of get a peek into that. And I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was a really honest, like really intriguing look at someone so unique and their vision and how this train wreck of a movie came about. You had a different reaction to it. You're speechless.
I don't want to be too negative. For me, it was rough for me to watch The Room by itself, and to see this completely unique person that's out in the world just conduct this train wreck of a movie. And then, as I started the Disaster Artist, as soon as Franco's character kind of came on screen and was portraying Tommy Wiseau, it was rough for me. It was really, really rough for me to get through the next 5 minutes of that. It took me, I think, 5 times of turning it off and walking away, and then coming back to it. just to go, okay, I just, this is work. I need to get through this. um, but it didn't play out the way I thought it would. I thought the Disaster Artist was really going to be a little bit more spoofy, because of the people involved. I mean, when you have Franco and Seth Rogen together, you just think, okay, yeah, this is just going to be like, the Pineapple Express, or a dozen other little spoof movies that they put together. But it really wasn't that. Actually, I Seth Rogen for me was like the best part of the thing.
He's great.
He gave me a little bit of comedic, happiness, which lightened my kind of my misery a little bit.
You
walking through
your arms for a little bit.
But it was an interesting take, and unfortunately, I wasn't at the end of the movie. I wasn't able to change my view. Like, if anything, it just solidified my disgust with this movie and the celebration of something so bad. But that's for me. That's just something that there are some really bad movies out there. And there are and I'm part of probably at least a dozen movies that are cult classics, that I love. But I mean, they're not cult classics because they were so horrible when they were made and produced. They're just singular movies that people either did or didn't like Blade Runner, Dune, things like that. And they weren't produced and horribly bad. They were just different for people at that time. But I get it. It's, people can, they have their own free will to do what they want. It just, I have to turn away from the punch. It's not my flavor.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not my flavor of punch.
That's okay. That's all right. And that's why it's, it's not a huge thing. That's why it still has that cult following. It's not for everyone, but for people who enjoy film and for people who enjoy like a particular kind of comedy, and it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just
like some people, they can eat squid. Can't do it. It's just slimy.
You don't like squid?
No, just that the texture.
Oh, okay.
It's rubbery. It's like a moving snot ball in my mouth. There's no spunky to it. It's just funky.
Right.
Sorry. Anywho,
I enjoyed it. Kind of going back to our theater experience, which I'd watched it before at home, and I was really wondering what it would be like in the theater. And although it was like really entertaining to kind of hear people's reactions, I wish it was a lot more full. I wish they had done one showing.
Yeah, we didn't
for the
have
entire city,
too many people,
because there was like 3 or 4 different theaters showing it. Because there were a handful of people, but
I think there was about a dozen of us.
Yeah,
if anything.
But it was kind of hilarious to see where people kind of really laughed, and
the guy behind me,
he was going
off at the weirdest times. And I'm going, well, what is that? Like, how does that strike a chord with you?
Yeah, because like some parts I just find hilarious, and me, my brother, my friend, like we all find just hilarious. Like we were like the only ones laughing, whereas like this guy's laughing at just the most random things. But that's what I thought was the most interesting in watching it with the crowd.
Yeah. Are we going to talk spoilers, or?
There's no spoilers for The Room, and there's no real spoilers for The Disaster Artist.
I guess that's true. But I was actually kind of like, I had no idea what the movie was about. Like, I had no clue. And then
that's the best way to go into it.
15 minutes into the movie, I'm like, is this a porn? Like,
yeah, because
is this a soft porn flick?
In the first 20 minutes of The Room, there's 2 sex scenes.
Yeah.
I think there's a total of 5 or something like that. Yeah, and it's fantastically bad. And the sex scenes are way too long with the corniest music and just like too much. There's too much. Like, of everything.
I mean, I was sitting there and I was like, I've literally watched spoof porn with better acting, plot, and just storytelling than what I'm watching now, and I couldn't tear my eyes out fast enough.
Yeah, no, it's just you have to watch it. Like I can't explain to you this kind of.
But you really don't have to. Like, okay.
I mean, you can turn it off whenever you want.
If it's your flavor of punch, okay.
Look, you guys can borrow my personal copy. I'll lend it to you. Just reach out. I mean, Tommy Wiseau, let's just talk about him for a second. They say there's 3 mysteries surrounding him, right? How old he is, where he's from, and where he got the money to fund this movie.
Right.
The room cost about $6 million, right? Which, for a movie, it's really not anything, right?
Well, but if you watch this, like,
it looks like it was made for like $100,000, maybe
less than that. Like, yeah. I have no idea. I'm assuming because of watching The Disaster Artist, all the money that he spent was on equipment.
It was on equipment, and it was on things that didn't need to
that needed to be done, like the fake stages that he did and all that stuff. But
that's some of the fascinating parts to me is that this guy, like, he wanted to make a movie, but he had no idea on how to make a movie, and so he was just doing things because he had the money, and no one knows where the money comes from, but like he bought the cameras. Like, you don't buy the equipment that you use for a movie. You don't buy that stuff. Like, that's all rented out. But he bought it, and he also bought 2 versions. He bought a digital camera and he bought a film camera and shot simultaneously on both because he wanted to be the first one to do that. Like, if that's not insane, I don't know what is.
So here's a question that just hit me. Are there 2 different versions of the movie? Is there a film version and a digital version?
Well, the final cut is what we get. I don't know which cut that is. He probably interchanged them. But that's besides, I mean, who really cares? I mean, that's just the way it's
I mean, because there's at least a dozen kind of like moments where the whole thing just fuzzes out.
Yeah, the focus on, like,
and it's like, okay, well, you had 2 cameras rolling at the same scene, so one of them had to have been in focus.
Hopefully, you would think.
But but I think the funny thing is watching The Disaster Artist. I think there were parts of that movie where the guys were like, yeah, I don't care if this is a good shot or not. I just want to get through the scene. Let's just get through the scene and just say, okay, that's a wrap. Yeah, and then however it comes out is however it comes out.
Exactly, and those are the things that it's like, why does this movie look like this? And it's because these people just didn't care. And no one wanted to tell Tommy Wiseau that, this is a bad movie. Like, this is horrible writing, horrible dialogue. This movie does not make any sense, and it has no plot.
Yeah.
But no one said anything. And the fact that no one said anything makes this one of those rare movies, because there are bad movies. They're Sharknado, all this stuff. They're B movies, but they don't try to be more than that. They know what they are.
Yeah, they know exactly what they are.
Exactly. And they know exactly what they're trying to do, whereas this movie is so confused on so many levels. It's just hypnotizing, is what I can say. It's just, I can't not watch this movie enough. Like, I'm still gonna just pop it on every once in a while. Just for a good laugh. Just for a good laugh.
So, here's a question for you. Where do you think that Tommy is? Like, if you had to wager a guess.
Well, it's clearly like Eastern European. He's clearly not American, even though he says he's from New Orleans, which I think is probably the funniest thing about it. But
I mean, he may have like crawled out of a coffin from the cemetery in New Orleans, because that's pretty much what he looks like. Yeah.
He also says he was like in his 20s when he did The Room, which he clearly is not.
Yeah, I mean, he may have been wearing clothes that were in their 20s, but he himself physically,
And
that's
and
not
I,
possible.
and I also feel like it came out in just the perfect time, because 2003 was just a funny time in like fashion, and then you have the big baggy suits and the his crazy long hair, and it's so fitting. It's just, you just can't make this up. But also, like, the Disaster Artist, of course, is based on the book, which you didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't.
So the
I was a little shocked that there was another source source material for this for this story.
Well, see, the Disaster Artist was it was written by Greg Sestero, who plays Mark in the movie, who Dave Franco plays in The Disaster Artist. But he wrote this book, and it kind of tells you the whole story of how they met and everything that went on. And I was able to read a little bit of it and actually catch the audiobook of it. And it's funny because Greg Sestero does a perfect Tommy Wiseau. And it's a really funny read. And like, the book is actually really good. So if you end up watching The Room, if you want to learn more about it, that the book is actually really good. I actually think the book is probably better than The Disaster Artist as a movie, but
I can believe that,
because because The Disaster Artist kind of streamlines it, and there's a lot more things like complicating the story and the behind the scenes than what you kind of see in the movie. But as a whole, the movie does its job. You know, you can only fit so much in 2.5 hours. So
I have a theory, though.
Okay.
I have a theory. I think that Tommy is from Transylvania.
You think he's a true
in some
vampire?
way he's like backdated, related to some ancient like family. I'm not saying he's like the son of Dracula or anything like that, but he's somewhat related, and he has some of that ancient Eastern European just family money, you know, that's just basically all old printed gold coins in some vault somewhere. And he was just like, hey, I'm gonna go to America. you know, just whatever. That's my guess.
Okay.
It'll come out sooner or later. Maybe not.
Probably not.
Probably not. It's definitely an experience. It's not an experience I would recommend, but you know, if it's something that piques your interest, then definitely go through it. Yeah, that's I'll leave it at that.
All right, guys.
I don't want to be too.
You don't want to be
mean.
too negative.
Too negative.
It's okay. Anyway, guys.
Don't drink the punch.
That's it for our kind of overview of The Room and The Disaster Artist as a whole. If you guys have seen it, if you're a fan, if you're not a fan of The Room, you know, let us know your thoughts and your kind of experience with it. They show up all across the world, and Tommy shows up to those screenings. So, you know, people have stories about, you know, oh yeah, I was in, you know, London and Tommy was there, you know, watching The Room. Tell us your experiences with it. Did you see The Disaster Artist? How'd you like it? Does James Franco kind of deserve that Golden Globe? You're shaking your head.
No. No, I don't. I mean, he did a great job, but I think we talked about this earlier. Tommy is he's such a particularly unique person, and he acts just so uniquely. I don't think it would be hard for anyone to step in and do that, because just looking at the source material and going, okay, so I just need to act like that. Okay, that's not a problem. Yeah, just dye my hair, make me look pale, and I can do that. But
I think there's a little more than that.
I'm not going to take, I'm not taking anything away from Frank. Well, actually, I am, but
yeah, you are.
Yeah, it's quite a few. But I mean, for me, looking at this movie and looking like what he did for this movie, I'm going, yeah, there are better movies and other actors out there that deserve to be recognized instead of Franco in this particular medium. So
I get that.
I think other people got robbed.
Yeah, I mean, as for that, I mean, the Golden Globes or whatever, I mean, I don't agree completely on how they categorize films. Like, the fact that this was in the same category is Get Out, which, I think Daniel Kaluuya should have won for this category.
Yeah, absolutely.
But whatever.
The whole award system with movies, Academy and Golden Globes, everything that they do is all convoluted.
Yeah, but like I said, tell us what you guys think. Email us at postproductionpod@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up. I'm at Adam Scadam on Twitter.
I am Mr. Drew LV.
And
we are on YouTube now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we are on YouTube. So leave a comment, subscribe if you like kind of what we're doing. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'd love your support, and leave comments on the pages for the movies. So we'd love to read those.
Yeah, absolutely. Guess that's it. Anything else, Drew? No?
No, I'm good.
I'm
good. We got through that.
Yeah. Congratulations. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.